Okay, there's some news developing, of course, coming in now from Limpopo. The ANC's Lillian Ngoyi Memorial Lecture has been cancelled due to apparent non-compliance with COVID-19 regulations. We understand that the president of the ANC, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, was expected to address the lecture, but he has reportedly left the venue, and there's a briefing that's happening there. Our reporter on the ground is Pule Letshwiti-Jones, and he's following that in Leboa-Kgomo. Let's take you there now.
We have been advised during the activity that when they look at the current situation, we are not non-compliant. Hence, we then said, after they are advised, that even when you see as a person that here we are not complying, they have advised us correctly, and we sincerely apologize for what has happened today.
Would you describe what has happened as irresponsible on the part of the ANC Women's League?
We are not irresponsible. We are adults, we are mothers, and you see that we have ended this activity with a dignity to say, if we are not complying, it's not us who will undermine the rule of law in the country. We are not very irresponsible as the leadership of the Women's League. And we must not push the narrative that says President walk away out of this activity. It is upon the advice that he got from the security and from the leadership of the Women's League that we need to end things. And on a positive note, we'll just have to continue even if it's after January 8, because women want to work for the African National Congress. Women are ready to take the ANC forward. Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. Praten, the ANC Women's League Secretary General, Mkhwaba Matuba, just giving us a briefing about what had transpired inside the hall where the ANC Women's League, of course, was convening its memorial lecture here in Leboa-Kgomo in Limpopo. We do understand that some of the guests were, of course, there, were included the President Cyril Ramaphosa and, of course, the Premier of Limpopo, Stanley Mathabata. But just 5 minutes after we've entered the venue and we were ushered through a prayer, we saw the intelligence actually escorting the president and the premier, Stanley Mathabata, who were close to the table where they were sitting. And from what we had gathered is that they had stressed tough that the wall had, of course, not been in compliance with COVID-19 regulations. Now, this began at the entry, where at some point the media was being barred from going in, where police officials were actually stressing tough that the wall was completely full. But I'm just going to try and ask my colleague Mkhumo to try and mount his camera so we can walk and speak to the president of the ANC Women's League, Pule Letshwiti-Jones, and try to see if we can get a bit of comments. Now, I need to apologize for those shaky visuals there as we are moving live in motion to try and speak to the president.
While you are walking there, just to confirm, has the president and the premier of Limpopo, have they left this venue now?
Yes, Praten, they have left. I'm just going to throw the mic in to the president of ANC Women's League.
Press briefing with the SGO of the Women's League. And now we've called everyone to come here. We've addressed you honestly. I don't think you should do this to us.
Do you feel snubbed by the president?
No, why should we feel snubbed? We are not snubbed. He actually did not understand what was going on up until he was briefed about what was happening there. So no one feels snubbed.
What do you have to say about the women who forced to come in after they say the number has...
I can't account for those women.
All right, there you have it.
Well, Braden, there it is. That was the ANC Women's League president, Pule Letshwiti-Jones, saying they actually briefed the president at the time in the war regarding this issue that they were encountering. But what we want to understand is that earlier on, NEC member Nomvula Mokonyane held a briefing in which they said that the party would comply with strict COVID-19 regulations ahead of the 110th anniversary ANC celebration, which is expected to take place at, of course, the Peter Mokaba Mashaba Stadium. Most importantly, again, we also got comments from some of those in the security cluster, such as Zizi Kodwa, who said this shouldn't be a deterrent to not having to have the event continue, but they would be going back to the drawing board to ensure that they can have even stricter measures to ensure that what happened today does not happen again. Once again, we got comments from the Secretary General of the ANC Women's League saying they would have to opt for a better venue to ensure that once again they can accommodate the president, who will then have to come back again. But that's the delegation of the ANC Women's League, also flagged by Free State Premier Olim Lameli, who was then the coordinator of the event before we saw it being cancelled. And that's what we're seeing right now, Pradhan.
Yeah.
Such unexpected scenes that have transpired in less than 10 minutes, and we'll be hoping to be briefed, particularly to see what is the way forward from here onwards.
Yeah, Pule, while I have you, just from the understanding, I mean, we literally crashed into that first briefing as we crossed live to you. We didn't catch the very beginning. From what you've reported, the President and the Premier of Limpopo and other officials arrived at this venue organized in Leboakgomo by the ANC Women's League to host the Lillian Ngoyi Memorial Lecture. But it looks like the venue was packed to capacity against the regulations of COVID-19. Is that the case?
Definitely, you're quite correct, Pradhan. It was packed to capacity from the minutes when we got here onto the event, trying to enter to see rather and stage our cameras and connect. We were being barred by police officials saying it was packed to capacity, but some ANC Women's League members insisted in trying to entering this venue. And just 5 minutes before the program could officially go underway, we saw the Premier and of course the President being escorted, and we were being told later on that this is due to security reasons and that there was a bridge of COVID-19 regulations. Now, this is also quite concerning as it comes just days before the ANC will be convening its anniversary this coming Saturday. But ANC officials have been quite clear, saying that this shouldn't be a deterrent as to what may transpire this weekend, saying they will be adhering to some of those strict COVID-19 regulations. The ANC Women's League President and of course Secretary General is saying that they were not aware about this. They didn't think this would happen, but for them they're saying it's a lesson learned, and they will be having to now go back to the drawing board and ensure this does not transpire once again.
Does it seem to you, Pule, from what you saw there, that there was either a lack of control at the entrance to the venue? Because when we got you live there, when you were speaking to the Secretary, the General of the Women's League earlier, she said they are responsible adults. That's why they decided to stop this event today and cancel it and not go ahead. But from what you noticed when you arrived there, I mean, was there any way of, were the marshals there at the door to control, to make sure that the venue was not packed beyond the allowed COVID-19 capacity?
Well, I mean, at some point we saw one or two police officials at the door, and when we arrived there, actually, we saw a group of ANC Women's League officials and members who actually wanted to, go inside, but they were repeatedly told not to go in because the officials, police officials, cited, concerns such as the venue being packed to capacity. Now, what we understand is that from the ANC Women's League, they are of the view that they did not expect such a huge turnout, and for them, they had a controlled number of some of the members who wouldn't then have to attend the event. But, I mean, some just, unexpectedly arrived, and going inside as well, Pradhan, there was no chair or anything to sit down. It was quite full, and the only thing we could see from behind was the stage in front where the president was seated, and of course the premier as well was being positioned as well. And from there onwards was the intelligence that has to ensure the safety of the presidents. 5 minutes before the program could even commence, that's where we saw the evacuation of both officials, including the president, from the venue. But it was quite, a troublesome procedure of having to go inside the venue, while we saw, quite a lot of ANC Women's League members who wanted to go inside. And truth should be said, Pradhan, there was less police officials who were at the door to try and monitor the number of people who were coming into the venue. And this could have led to some of these events that we're seeing right now that have transpired.
Thank you very much, Pule Letshwiti-Jones, there in Leboakgomo in Limpopo at the venue that was supposed this afternoon, as we speak, to be hosting the ANC's Lillian Ngoyi Memorial Lecture to be delivered by the president of the organization, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. But as we've just told you live, that's the breaking story there, the event has been cancelled because it did not comply. The participation there was non-compliant with the COVID-19 regulations. Apparently it was filled to capacity. And the ANC Women's League President, Bathabile Dlamini, telling the media there very briefly that they don't regard this as a snub by the president. They are aware what has happened and there are lessons here. So we don't know if this lecture will happen at all in the near future.